I recently made a video where I talked through the top 10 books for artists and creatives that I feel have transformed my creative mindset, provided me with inspiration, taught me the fundamentals of art, and I also touched on a couple of the most important books that I feel have helped with my career in art, which are the Graphic Artists Guild Handbook to Pricing and Ethical Guidelines, a book that looks at the different pricing, contracts, legal stuff and paperwork that goes into professional commissions, and How to Be an Illustrator by Daryl Rees, which covers things like building a portfolio, job hunting and interviews, agents and more. And I will leave a link to that video up here and in the description if you want a deeper dive into those. But today I wanted to focus a little bit more on the career aspect of art and creativity and share the books that have had the biggest impact on how I work and make a living through my art. This video is sponsored by Skillshare, and I will have a great and very relevant class to share with you later on in the video, plus an amazing deal. But for now, I want to start with the book that kind of made me want to make this video in the first place. I don't have any of the physical copies of these books, by the way. I tend to read non-fiction in either ebook or audiobook format, but I'll pop pictures up on screen of what I'm talking about, and I will also leave links below to any books that I mention. The first book I wanted to talk about is The E-Myth Revisited by Michael E. Gerber, and I think, like most business books, this is one that you kind of have to cherry pick from for information that's relevant to you, but I have to say there are so many insights I took from this when I read it at the beginning of last year that have really continued to shape how I approach my work day to day, even now. In this book, you're introduced to someone with a creative passion, like baking, who decides that instead of working for someone else in a career that they don't like, they want to turn their craft into their career. And then through the book, they are essentially being coached into how to run the business side of things without the business running them. Because, and as has been the case for me as well, once you make your hobby into your job, you spend much less time on the actual hobby and a lot more time on things like accounting and customer service and admin and marketing and so much more that goes into it. So this book helps you zoom out of your personal, time-consuming and sometimes kind of crushing, like, I have to do everything or it won't get done properly mindset, although that might just be me. And it talks you through how to create systems and set things up in a way that you don't have to do everything, and you can spend time on the things that really matter to you. Even though I still don't outsource any of my work, just going through the exercises of outlining my own roles as an artist, my own social media manager and online content creator, a shop owner, a video filmer and editor, and all of the tasks that go into those individual roles, streamlining things into a way that could be passed on to someone else in the future has made things so much easier for me in the meantime. So instead of everything just being done a certain way, because that's just how I do it, or instead of everything just being in my head, I now have outlines for all of the jobs that I do, all of the different hats that I wear, and easy to follow processes within those that almost automate a lot of the fluff around my work as an artist. So for example, if I wanted to hire a shop assistant tomorrow, instead of saying, well, I order envelopes when I've almost run out, and by almost run out, I mean like when I've got, I don't know, 20 left, unless I have a big sale coming up. Oh, and it has to be the right envelopes. There are some in a box over there. There are some under the desk. There's some in that cupboard. I'm not actually sure how many we've got left. We might need to order some more, which is kind of how things were before. Instead, it's like, these specific envelopes are stored here. I keep a minimum of 100 in stock at all times, and I track the inventory here. When inventory falls below 100, this is where I order them from. And that's it. So not only would that make it easier for me to get some extra help in and have them be confident from the get-go in what they're doing without having to come to me every 5 seconds for clarification, it's made my life so much easier because it's eliminated any confusion for myself, any decision fatigue, and I have systems in place that tell me what needs to be done, how and when, and that frees up so much mental capacity to create more art. I always like to include a good all-rounder in my book recommendation videos, and this one really covers so many important, big and small, and some sort of common sense things. It's one of those that if you were to check out just one book from this list, I think this would be the one that I would recommend. So I'd Rather Be in the Studio by Alison B. Stanfield helps artists stand out, sell their work in a transactional sense, but also in how you share your work and put yourself out there. And it essentially walks you through the principles of effective self-promotion that doesn't feel gross or like too pushy or like too much work. Stanfield talks about common fears that we all have about failure and rejection, and really highlights what each of our individual ideas of success will look like to us. There are a few older editions that still cover 90% of the stuff that you need to know, but the most recent edition, which I believe was released in 2019, also has a bit more information on social media sprinkled throughout that I think will really be relevant to a lot of you all watching. It's a really affordable book and an accessible and insightful read with several takeaways that I think could help any of us in our creative careers. If you are interested in a deeper dive into capitalizing on the power of social media in your creative career, then illustrator, designer and podcaster Andy J. Pietz's Skillshare class, Social Media for Creatives, 5 Exercises to Power Your Freelance Career, is a fantastic resource to learn how to identify and reach your audience and build a genuine, engaged following in an hour and a half deep dive with like guided, actionable exercises. The most valuable point that I took away from it as I tried to work on my Instagram presence is reframing my idea of what success on that platform really means to me and setting out a framework to achieve just that. So you can check out that class below. I will have it linked, and the first 1,000 people to use my link will get a month free trial of Skillshare. And if you're new to Skillshare, it's an online learning community with thousands of online classes on topics from entrepreneurship to illustration and photography and lifestyle and productivity too. And if you're watching this video today to level up your creative pursuits this year, then Skillshare is a great place to do that. It's ad-free, so you can fully focus while you're exploring new skills. There are new premium classes launched every single week, and something new which I really love is that the entire catalogue of classes is now available with subtitles in Spanish, French, Portuguese and German. So again, don't forget to check out my link below and see what you can learn from Andy J. Pietz's social media class and all of the other classes that you can find on there to boost your creativity and your career. Now, negotiation, conflict, asking for more, or even asking for anything, they're all things that I really struggle with. So I honestly didn't love this book. It kind of made me squirm at points, and it's one that you really have to, again, cherry pick from, as there's a lot of fluff in there. But this video is about books that have changed how I approach my career, not necessarily books that I love, and this one definitely has. I mentioned on Patreon a while ago that I always feel like I've undersold myself when I'm taking on new jobs and naming my price, and I always come to regret that when I realise just how much work I've taken on for a fee that isn't really living up to the effort that I'm putting in, especially when I name a price and the other party is instantly like, yes, perfect, let's go for it, and I think, definitely could have asked for more. And one of my patrons recommended Start With No by Jim Camp. And while the concept of negotiating and pricing my work and my time fairly is still something, and probably always to some extent will be something, that makes me a little bit awkward and uncomfortable, through reading this book I did learn some key takeaways on going into negotiation situations in a good place. So either having other options lined up or going into it with an idea of how okay I'll be to just walk away if I'm not getting what I want, finding out more about what the other party wants and leveraging how I'll be able to deliver that. It's sort of self-helpy, but it's done a good job for me as an almost pep talk of validating my desire to know my worth and stop underselling myself. I guess what I've learned from this book is that I can't please everyone. I can't always be the nice guy, and sometimes I have to say no and walk away if something is taking from me more than it is giving. Another quick one to mention here is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, which I would like to read eventually, but it does seem to be a bit more about the techniques of negotiation that I think make more sense in like a face-to-face setting. And these are things that I could take into my life outside of work as well. For example, in my very current negotiations to get our full deposit back from our old landlord, and you can check out my last video to find out more about that. But quick update, they are in fact trying to hold back some of our money, and I am ready to negotiate the heck out of them. This is an interesting one. Daily Rituals by Mason Curry doesn't tell you step by step how to do anything. Instead, you go from one chapter to another with the daily routines of different artists, musicians, poets, politicians, their daily routines being described to you in detail. So the reason that I've included this in this video about a career is that seeing the vast range of ways that these hugely successful people shaped their days gave me the space to settle into an effective work routine that worked for me. So not like one of those viral billionaire morning routine type things. I've fallen into the trap before of thinking that I need to have a 9 to 5, 5-day-a-week schedule, and sometimes that does work for me, but understanding that the structure of my day can look completely different to that if it means that I will be more efficient with the work that I do, and also seeing that I can change my routine to suit different levels of workloads has really enhanced the way that I choose to show up and get stuff done. I've tried a few different approaches and I've noticed a few similarities across a lot of the routines that I definitely want to implement. And this book is just one that I think I will revisit over and over again to keep me making the most of my work hours. And finally, Show Your Work by Austin Kleon. If you haven't read this yet, you have to. If you are looking for something to push you into action, this is it. You might be watching this as someone who dreams of turning your hobby into your career, or as someone who is working on it but feels that they can put more in. And this short and simple book is the perfect pep talk for that. It's not revolutionary in its ideas, but I love how it distills the essentials down to 10 easy to work on points that I think any of us can harness and use to our advantage in our creative pursuits. I thought the Goodreads summary wrapped it up perfectly when it said, "From broader life lessons about work to the etiquette of sharing and the dangers of oversharing to the practicalities of internet life, it's an inspiring manifesto for succeeding as any kind of artist or entrepreneur in the digital age." And that is where I will leave you. I will at some point do another all-round great art books on different topics, as so many of you requested a part 2 to that video. But I hope that you have found this one helpful, and please do let me know if you have any other suggestions for future videos. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you soon in the next one. Bye.